Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Joseph Novichkov, Senior Trading Manager with GDM. Today's session outlook, we're starting with the Asian markets. They finished rather mixed on Tuesday as investors remained cautious ahead of the British Prime Minister Theresa May's speech on Brexit plans, which is due later in the day. And of course, as well as the President-elect Donald Trump's inauguration at the end of the week. We see that Chinese mainland markets were closing rather mixed right now, as we see the Shanghai composite slightly higher with 0.17% up, or about 5.33 points, closing at 3108.76, and the Shenzhen composite up 21.6 points or 1.15% to the north, closing at 1873. After seesawing between gains and losses throughout the session, Japanese 2 to 5 index closed down heavily, 281.7 points or 1.48%, down at 18,813.52. The US dollar slipped to 113.61 yen on Monday, hitting its lowest level in more than 5 weeks, as Trump's protagonist comments rathered these investors around the globe, and it of course last stood at 113.23, down 0.8% on the day, or almost a full yen down. Markets in Europe opened lower, as we can see across the board on Tuesday morning, as investors waited to hear from the UK Prime Minister Theresa May on her Brexit plans. Of course, as we can see, the European Stock 600 index 1.6 points down, or almost 0.5% lower, with most sectors, of course, trading in the negative territory. The rest of the indices, FTSE 100, 22.6 points down, or 0.3% in negative territory. DAX, almost 70 points down, or 6.6% in the negative territory. The euro, however, was up against the dollar at 1.0660, or a little over 0.5%, as the British pound closed to a 3-month low set on Tuesday in the previous session, as the Prime Minister Theresa May's speech later in the day is likely to set Britain on a course that would end its access to the European Union single market. We can see that the pound have bounced slightly off of the recent lows at 1.2122 against the dollar, or 0.6% up on the day, having slumped to a 3-month low of 1.1983 on Monday, which was the weakest point in more than 3 decades. Let's take a look at gold prices. They continued to rise on Tuesday to hover near 7-week high that was set a day before, with safe haven demand, of course, boosted ahead of a speech in which Prime Minister Theresa May, as we mentioned, is expected to discuss plans for a hard Brexit. Gold had risen 1.4% against the dollar at $12.13, or $16.8 up. And this is in early European session on Monday, and of course that marks its highest in more than 7 weeks. Oil markets were mixed on Tuesday, supported by growth in US crude production, and of course Saudi Arabia says it would strictly adhere to a comment to cut output, but of course held back by skepticism in the financial markets that oversupply would be curbed. US West Texas Intermediate crude futures early in European trade are slightly higher, 0.2% against the dollar, or talking about 7 cents up at $52.58 a barrel. That's all from the most important news of today. We will of course keep you updated, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.